Leading this service with me today is Worship Associate Kim Roberts.
Good morning.
And there will be reflections later from Sue Knaus and Aaron Gallagher.
We gather each Sunday morning on site and online to share in life's meaning, to grow in care and community, and to open our hearts and minds to the sacred truth known by many names.
We gather in community to restore the balance of our spirits, to celebrate the joys of life, and find the strength to meet our sorrows, and in the earliest meaning of the word worship, to consider ideas that are worthy of our time and attention.
Unitarian Universalism is a religious tradition that values diversity, and it embraces the wisdom of all faiths. We use science, reason, and gifts of the Spirit to explore life's mystery and meaning. And in this tradition, we know that people do not need to think alike, to love alike.
Whatever your heritage, however your history, and whomever you love, you are welcome here. You may stand as you're willing and able and sing along with Wayaya, performed by Wiala.
It's hymn number 1020 in your teal hymnal.
We are going, heaven knows where we are going, but we know we will get there. We are going, heaven knows where we are going, but we know we will get there. We are going, heaven knows where we are going, but we know we will get there. Boom, boom, ti-boom, boom, boom. Boom, boom, ti-boom, boom, boom. We will get there. Heaven knows how we will get there. We know we will get there. We are going, heaven knows where we are going, but we know we will get there. Boom, boom, ti-boom, boom, boom. Boom, boom, ti-boom, boom, boom. It will be hard, we know, that the road will be muddy and rough, but we will get there. Heaven we know we will.
What a beautiful version of that song. We light our flaming chalice as a beloved people, united in love and thirsting for restorative justice. May it melt away the tethers that uphold whiteness in our midst. May it spark in us a spirit of humility. May it ignite in us radical love that transforms our energy into purposeful action. This is a chalice of audacious hope. This chalice shines a light on our shared past, signaling our intention to listen deeply and reflect wisely and move boldly towards our highest ideals.
At the beginning of the book, My Grandmother's Hands, Racialized Trauma and Pathways to Mending Our Hearts and Bodies, the author Resmaa Menakem, a social worker and therapist, offers some guidance on what to do with your body while experiencing his writing. I'll share them with you now, as I believe they may be applicable during this worship service and any time during which the challenging and uncomfortable topics of racism and oppression come up. Pay attention to your body. There may be times when it will reflexively constrict in order to protect you from some of the truths you'll encounter. This constriction will be followed by a thought such as, I'm not like that, I'm a good person. Or, this isn't about me because I don't belong to a racist organization. When this occurs, just notice what you're experiencing without doing anything about it. Don't try to undo the constriction. Don't try to hold on to it either. Just watch your body closely and notice what sensation, impulses, and emotions arise. Don't take the reflexive thoughts seriously either. Don't try to support them. Don't debate them. Don't act on them at all. Just observe them as they arise and not any images or other thoughts that may follow. You may sense profound hope, relief, or both. Let yourself experience these as they arise, then let them go as well. For youth, children at heart, and all those who appreciate the wisdom found in songs, stories, fairy tales, and parables, it's our time for all ages. A stream from its course in the far-off mountains, passing through every kind and description of countryside, at last reached the sands of the desert. Just as it had crossed every other barrier, the stream tried to cross this one, but found that as fast as it ran into the sand, its waters disappeared. It was convinced, however, that its destiny was to cross this desert, and yet there was no way. Now a hidden voice coming from the desert itself whispered,
The wind crosses the desert, and so can the stream.
The wind can fly. This is why it can cross a desert.
By hurtling in your own accustomed way, you cannot get across. You will either disappear or you'll become a marsh. You must allow the wind to carry you over to your destination.
But how could this happen?
By allowing yourself to be absorbed into the wind.
This idea was not acceptable to the stream. After all, it had never been absorbed before. It did not want to lose its individuality. And once having lost it, how was one to know that one's identity could ever be regained?
The wind performs this function. It takes up water and carries it over the desert and then lets it fall again.
How can I know that this is true?
It is so, and if you do not believe it, you cannot become more than a quagmire.
But I cannot remain the same stream that I am today.
You cannot in either case. Remain so.
When it heard this, echoes began to arise in the thoughts of the stream. Dimly it remembered a state in which it, or some part of it, had been held in the arms of the wind. And the stream raised its vapor into the welcoming arms of the wind, which gently and easily bore it upwards and along, letting it fall softly as rain once they reached the roof of a mountain many, many miles away, where it then became a river. I'll now share more wisdom from Resmaa Manikin's book, My Grandmother's Hands. As these words were written in early 2017, America is tearing itself apart. On the surface, this war looks like the natural outcome of many recent social and political clashes, but it is not. These conflicts are anything but recent. 156 years ago, they spawned the American Civil War. But even in the 1860s, these conflicts were already centuries old. They began in Europe during the Middle Ages, where they tore apart close to 2 million white bodies. The resulting tension came to America, embedded in the bodies of Europeans, and it has remained in the bodies of many of their descendants. Over the past 2 centuries, that tension has been both soothed and deepened by the invention of whiteness and the resulting racialization of American culture. The conflict has been festering for centuries. Now it must be faced. For America, it is an unavoidable time of reckoning. Our character is being challenged, and the content of that character is being revealed. One of 2 things will happen. Ideally, America will grow up and out of white body supremacy. Americans will begin healing their long-held trauma around race, and whiteness will begin to evolve from race to culture and then to community. The other possibility is that white body supremacy will continue to be reinforced as the dominant structured form of energy in American culture, in much the same way Aryan supremacy dominated German culture in the 1930s and 40s. One aspect of this type of white body supremacy involves seeing whites as the norm or standard for human and people of color as a deviation from that norm. An actress becomes a black actress, and so on. Thus, we move through a wholly racialized world with an unracialized identity. White people can represent all of humanity. People of color can only represent their racial selves. This everyday form of white body supremacy is in the air we breathe, the water we drink, and the culture we share. We literally cannot avoid it. It is part of the operating system and organizing structure of American culture. It's always functioning in the background, often invisibly in our institutions, our relationships, and our interactions. Relatively few white Americans consciously recognize, let alone embrace, this subtle variety of white body supremacy. In fact, there is often no way to measure or recognize it. For most Americans, white body supremacy has become part of our bodies. How could it not? It's the equivalent of toxic chemicals we ingest on a daily basis. Eventually, it changes the brains and the chemistry of our bodies, which is why in looking at white body supremacy, we need to begin not with guilt or blame, but with our bodies.
In this worship service that invites us to lean even more deeply into our mission as Unitarian Universalists, we renew our commitment as a community to respond out of deep care for one another. Now's the time to come up and briefly share a sorrow, a joy, or a gratitude, something that you're carrying deeply within your hearts this morning. If you're on site in the sanctuary, please come up to the front, and we're going to turn these microphones so that you can speak into them, and Jasmine will help you light your candle. If you're on Zoom, put what you'd like to share in the chat box, and I will share it and read it out loud for you as Jasmine lights a candle for you. And a few gentle reminders, this isn't the time for announcements or politics, and if you would, please say your name, and please share from your heart and from your own experiences, and be mindful not to share someone else's experience unless you have their express permission to do so. And would anyone like to share this morning? Justice, which, no matter how small, work towards the transformation of our world. Your contributions allow this congregation to reach out to all who seek a life-affirming message of love and hope. If you're online, you can click in the Zoom chat to make a contribution, and we do have a new link in there. The other one was not working, but this one will. And if you're on site, you can put a donation in those baskets that are going around, or if you prefer, you can go on your device now and make your donation that way. Whatever method of giving you choose, your generosity helps to grow a healthier and more joyful UU community. And in keeping with our religious heritage, to draw the circle of love and justice just a little bit wider.
Well, good morning. My name is Sue, and my pronouns are she and her. And I'm going to give you a little reflection I've had about Article 2 and the process. About a year ago, I was interviewed about UCB Pride by a local radio station, and a very well-meaning and sweet young man had the nerve to refer to me as a lesbian elder. And I thought, who are you calling an elder? I am still in my prime. But as I reflected upon my past, what I had done, where I had been, I kind of reluctantly accepted that term. And I know that he meant that in a respectful way. But I have to admit that I do still have my moments of get off my lawn with these young LGBTQ activists and the way they see the world. But I also understand that I live in a unique space now. I'm in my late 50s, and I have an 11-year-old. I'm in seminary, and I'm just finishing my first year of what I call my third active life. Understanding and honoring our collective history that my elders have built for me, and knowing there's more to do and more miles to tread. Admittedly, I'm relatively new to UU, but I so resonate with the richness it brings to my world and the opportunities it offers to cover these miles ahead. I relate with the 7 principles deeply. We honor them as we commit to live out these principles with a living tradition of wisdom and spirituality, drawn from sources as diverse as science, poetry, scripture, and personal experience. We understand that we're an ever-evolving faith tradition that, like science, adjusts as it goes, or as Maya Angelou would say, when we know better, we do better. At this intersection, I think about what a well-known author and mystic, Brian McLaren, asked, and I'm paraphrasing here, are we just here as a congregation in faith to use the millennials as fuel to serve our purposes? When I went to the UU General Assembly, I had no real investment one way or the other. I'm not a fan of changing things just to change things because it sounds like a lot of work and I'm kind of lazy. I've seen the work this congregation has done. They're not just principles to us. We lean into them. The changes to Article 2 are a change from being a noun to being a verb. People of action who live out our principles, not just stand in them. It is not enough to say that we stand against racism. We need to actively dismantle it. It is not enough to say we believe in the interweb of all things. We must actively protect all beings, including our earth, from exploitation. But as I listened and saw the voices of the people asking for changes, I saw our future. The marginalized, the people of color, the young people in all their forms, calling us to not just stand in our principles, but to lean in and take action, to help them move forward for the many miles left to tread. But what really concerns me right now is that we are allowing the world to infect us rather than us to affect them. The way we deal with constructive conflict, I'd like us to be a lesson in how to lovingly disagree and move forward together, not divisively or grudgingly. I firmly believe that at the root of all faith traditions is learning how to be in relationship with one another. That is our work to do as individuals and collectively as a congregation. I want us to model how to handle differing viewpoints and make space for voices of diversity, the marginalized, and the dissenters based on our principles. That old expression, do what I say, not what I do, I've been known to use that, don't tell anyone. Well, I want to change that. Not on how we vote, but how we come to that decision. I want us to carry out lessons on the principles to the world by modeling them and based on our actions inside this building and in this house. I want us to be the change in the world we want to see. And it starts here with us and how we treat each other in points of disagreement where love and respect reside at the center. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Erin Gallagher, and I am not in seminary, so just putting that out there, But the first time I ever walked into this building, I was 15 years old, and it still smelled like fresh paint, really. I was here most weeks over the next 10 years because I worked in the nursery over there. And the nursery had the service piped in so that parents could sit with their kids and listen to it. And so I too then therefore was listening to all the services. So I was in the in the nursery listening to the service of the living tradition. And the service of the living tradition talked all about how we are a growing faith and how we were expected to change and our ideas were expected to change as we grew and we had new experiences. And so that's where I really had the aha moment that I might be a Unitarian Universalist, much to my parents' chagrin, as they wanted me to go to St. Margaret's. So in January of 2000, I signed the membership book here and was an active member. And then in 2011, I moved to Arizona. So I was in Arizona for over a decade. I was a member of Valley Unitarian there, and that's the first time I ever had active young adult groups, people my own age. But then I came back to Maryland mid-pandemic, and I lurked on Zoom for a while, watching what was going on here. But eventually I walked through the doors. It didn't smell like fresh paint. And I kept telling people, yeah, I'm just going to go to services. I'm not going to get involved. I'm just going to services. So spoiler alert, I'm actually really involved with a lot of things. And that's because, for me, Unitarian Universalist doesn't exist in sitting in the pews. It exists in the actual doing of the work. So that's why when the Article 2 conversation started to come up, I was kind of like, let's enjoy that, because I really knew in my heart that the people here were not going to be on board. And my initial reaction was, I was like, we don't really, we just barely are surviving a pandemic. But then one of the concerns when we met and discussed Article 2 was that everybody knows the 7 principles. And that is a good idea, but I don't think it's actually true. I know for me it's not. 24 years, and I can't rattle all 7 principles off. I can tell you what they are, but I don't know them. So in doing research about the Article 2, I discovered something that I really wanted to go away. I wanted it to disappear. I wanted somebody to say, no, we can't do this. This is actually problematic, unintended consequences. and it didn't happen. So Glenn, if you could give us the image. I'm going to introduce you to Jet Pig. That is the Jet Pig. That is an idea that was come not from the people that wrote the Article 2 revision. They are not the people that created this Jet Pig image. It was the people that were working to figure out how we were going to spread the word and bring this to congregations and make it accessible and make it stick. So there it is. We have justice, equity, transformation, pluralism, interdependence, and generosity. Annoyingly memorable Jet Pig. I'm sorry, and you're welcome. You don't have to like it, but good luck forgetting it. Is the revision perfect? No, that's not the goal. We're a living tradition. We're here to learn and grow, building upon the past and growing into the future. Is everyone happy with the language? Of course not. We're UU. A member of the study commission pointed out that there are people right now sitting in UU congregations that don't agree with the current principles. The only way that we could incorporate everyone's beliefs and ideas would be to say nothing at all. So it is my sincere hope that in 20 years, the kids that are down the hall right now will be leading me into the next step. So thank you.
Trying to get to sleep, you're solving a mystery. The answers are far away, and they'll never see the light of day. The voices getting loud, so pity and out, and part of you is proud, but you won't get over. But you try, but you try, but you try. Like something from an old Greek tragedy, can't conceive of anything that ain't Hollywood. One doesn't have a happy ending, but in a way you get to play your part. But in a way you get to play your part. So long as the sun exists to cast shadows on ourselves, the shadow has all to tell, for which we have such a bitter need to look at every turn. We're never gonna learn, it's always gonna hurt, and we won't get over. But we try, but we try, but we try. Like something from an old Greek tragedy, can't conceive of anything that ain't Hollywood. One doesn't have a happy ending, but either way you get to play your part and try. I'm an optimist when I see things fly and try. But either way you get to play your part. Always to run away, you call it a holiday. You see your surroundings change, but then you feel such a bitter need to look at your own worth. Can't blame it on the walls and no one but yourself, and you won't get over. But you try, but you try, but you try. Stop taking it out on others around, yeah, it won't straight back down. You're trying to push that back up the hill. Like something from an old Greek tragedy, can't conceive of anything that ain't Hollywood. One doesn't have a happy ending, but either way you get to play your part and try. I'm an optimist when I see things fly and try. But
When pigs fly, right? In the 2020 report to the UUA from the Commission on Institutional Change titled Widening the Circle of Concern, there is a quote from provided testimony stating, "It is quite obvious to me that Unitarian Universalism is a sanctuary for gay, lesbian, transgender, and bisexual people. It is not as obvious that it is for people of color." Indeed. Having grown up in a UU church, it was that congregation that provided me with a safer space to explore my emerging queer identity. It was through the church that I found mentorship and affirmation as I faced bullying in school and an administration that was unsupportive of my efforts to start a gay-straight alliance 20 years ago. About 2 years ago, I decided to return to a UU congregation after taking a hiatus during the pandemic. When I saw UUFHC's name listed as a sponsor on a flyer for Upper Chesapeake Bay Pride. Thanks for being there. Unitarian Universalism has always been my sanctuary, and I wish that it could be one for my nibblings, an adorable gender-neutral term for nieces and nephews, as well. Tragically, I know families, even queer families, who have left UU congregations when they felt that the space offered was not a safe or supportive place for their children who were multiracial. I share the following story with permission. My sister, who is raising a child who is biracial, reports instances of microaggression that have made her child feel othered within the UU congregation they attend. Her child, at age 4, told her, "I want to get rid of this brownness and just have white." That's devastating. She was 4, and already she sensed the white body supremacy, invisible and inherent in American culture and institutions. She gets no relief from it. In her own home, her skin color makes her a minority. In her predominantly white-bodied UU church, she is othered. When my sister questioned how race and multiculturalism is taught in her children's bilingual Montessori school, she discovered that the school was just as colorblind as the public schools offered in Florida. Though because the school was private, she at least did not have the same fears about advocating for teaching about race, ethnicity, and culture in the classroom that parents and teachers at the public school face. Unitarian Universalism, despite our cherished principles and endless efforts toward social justice, is not immune to white body supremacy. The denomination was formed within it, from our colonial roots with Congregationalist pilgrims to the fellowship movement which coincided with white urban flight. As Resma Manikem notes, it is in the air we breathe, the water we drink, and the culture we share. Thomas Jefferson was a Unitarian and never fought to end slavery. Calhoun was a Unitarian and fought for the Confederates. Unitarians ran one of the boarding schools that forcefully assimilated indigenous people of the Americas. These are just a few examples of injustices people of our historic denominations have been complicit in. The UUA did acknowledge and write an apology regarding Unitarian involvement in the boarding school. It is also worth mentioning that there are now groups like Black Lives of Unitarian Universalism and the Latina UU Networking Association and additional affinity groups. UU is making strides. Though, just as America has yet to fully recognize and reconcile its racialized trauma, our denomination has not either. These conflicts and tensions have been around for centuries. I've heard that for some UUs, there is a perception that the UUA is becoming more authoritarian as it makes sweeping efforts to finally fully see and address the big white elephant in the room. In fact, the efforts toward a more actively anti-racist and anti-oppressive Unitarian Universalist faith is very much grassroots. It's led from the bottom up, not the top down. The UUA is deliberately responding to and endorsing voices of Black, Indigenous, people of color, and younger people. For the denomination and congregations to remain relevant, this kind of intentional and internal institutional evaluation is necessary. Similar to how women led the charge to change the original 6 UU principles in the 1980s because they were concerned about the gendered language, BIPOC voices are being centered as the denomination reflects on and implements vital institutional change. The Article 2 Study Commission and proposed revisions are part of that effort, along with the Widening the Circle report to the UUA in 2020, the Promise and the Practice worship materials that our chalice lighting this morning came from. The Promise and the Practice is described as a turning moment, a choice to listen deeply to the stories in our movement that have not been heard and taken to heart by all Unitarian Universalists. It's a lamenting of what our Unitarian Universalist tradition and congregations have lost by being unable or unwilling to center people of color, or even at times to merely include them. The Promise and the Practice is a celebration of our shared commitment to live into a new chapter in the story of our UU faith. These and many other efforts, including the 8th principle, much of which was incorporated into the proposed Article 2 revisions, Blue, Luna, Allies for Racial Equity, UU Rise, Drum, Beloved Conversations, Sankofa Archives, and Building the World We Dream About, give me a lot of hope about the future of our faith. I see them collectively as an invitation to transformation. How will we answer the call? If we continue in this arc, perhaps one day our congregations really can be sanctuaries for all who need them. As we close this worship service, let us return to our bodies, as they are how we experience the world and where we hold our own tensions and trauma. Does your body feel constriction or relief? Let us move into a moment of silence to allow ourselves to notice our own bodies and keep breathing while remaining together in community. Take notice and let go. Go in hope, for the arc of the universe is long and we can bend it toward justice. Go in courage, for together we have the strength to confront injustice in our daily lives and the larger world. Go in love, because a holy and generous love is both the reason and the means by which we transform our lives.
You have been waiting long enough. You're done with all the talk, with nothing on the table. It's time to come on out. There will be no sign from above. You'll only hear the knock, knock, knock of your own heart, a signal. If you are afraid, come out. If you are awake, come out and level up. Begin again. Dynamite the dam on the flow. Your body feels the talk of time as it hammers. Lord, we are all cinders from a fire burning long ago. But here it is, the knock, knock, knock of your own heart that matters. If you are afraid, come forth. If you are alone, come forth now. Everybody here has loved and lost. So love again. Call it any name you need. Call it your 2.0, your rebirth, whatever. So long as you can feel it all. So long as all your doors are flung wide. Call it your day number one and the rest of forever. If you're afraid, give more. If you're alive, give more now. Everybody here has seams and scars. So what let your faith die, bring your wonder. Yes, you are only one. No, it is not enough. But if you lift your eyes, I am your brother. And this is all we need. And this is where we start. This is the day we dreamed. This is the day no other.
So we're trying something new. We're going to be doing the announcements at the end of the service. So that way they're fresh in your mind, right? So the first one I want to tell you all about, if you weren't here, we had our chili cooking contest last night, and it was a big success. We raised about $600. Thank you very much. And we got to try a lot of awesome chilies. Do we have any winners here? Anybody who won? Congratulations. So, oh, cool. We're going to be doing this again next year, probably in March, so keep an eye out for it. And if you weren't there, please bring some chili. We'd love to share it together. I have an announcement. You are all invited to attend the Wishing Stars Theater production of comedic vignettes and monologues here this afternoon at 4 p.m. Barbara Bowman and Jane Fiore and Hazel Hopkins are going to be performing with their Readers Theater class from the McFall Senior Center, but it's actually going to be right here. Admission is free, and any donations received will be designated for our social justice initiative. So hopefully that you can come join this afternoon. It sounds like a lot of fun. And I guess that's the only announcements that I have. Is there anything else anybody would like to announce before we go to coffee? Yes.
Last Sunday for Circle Dinner sign-ups, the sheets are in the coffee room.
Wonderful. It's time for coffee and fellowship and conversation.